We do that drill a lot because it's just about basketball. It's about playing basketball. It's about angles. It's about quick decision making. And, for us as coaches, those are practice skills, and you can't get enough reps of that, of playing 5-on-5. It's quick decision making, it's spacing and alignment. The thing about zone offense is it's more of alignments and making plays than running plays. And so I know we'll talk about practice drills here, but we've got a couple that work for us regardless of the defense.
Welcome to episode 5 of Game Time. Today I'm talking with Lindy La Rocque, head coach of the UNLV Lady Rebels. She talks about how she's built an offense that rarely turns the ball over, shares some practice drills to help with that, and among other things, she also talks about transitioning from player to coach. She was a 4-year player at Stanford, had an amazing conference record. Wait till you hear about that. She shares fantastic coaching insights throughout this interview. Let's get to it. Usually I ask the same question to everybody, and it's about your playing style and what you want your team to be known for. But I feel like you are uniquely qualified to maybe offer some advice right off the bat for players that are transitioning into coaches. You had a successful career at Stanford. I believe you only lost one conference game in 4 years.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah, that's true.
That's amazing. I'd like to know if there's any advice that you could share for possible players turning into coaches that you've learned as an assistant coach, and now you're 4 years at UNLV.
Yeah, well, I think the first thing is for players that, want to be or aspire to be coaches, if they can recognize that early enough, even when they're playing, then to, plant those seeds while they're players and value your coaches, try to create and foster great relationships, because once you graduate, they will ultimately be your biggest advocates. So for me, I knew that. I mean, I knew in college and even in high school that I wanted to be a basketball coach and a math teacher at the time. So of course I played for the greatest coach of all time in Tara Vanderveer, but I didn't just go through the motions with her. I was intentional about trying to pick her brain and create a relationship with her. Obviously as a player, but even kind of off the court and in the office, knowing that, once I got done, she was going to be, my biggest advocate to try to help get me whatever might be the next opportunity. So not just her, but the assistant coaches. I think that's the biggest thing. And if you're already done playing and then you kind of come back to basketball of like, oh, I miss it, then hopefully you have those relationships to fall back on and you didn't, burn those bridges or sour anything when you left, because it's such a small basketball world, and the people that can talk best about you are the ones that coached you, that know you the best. So it's such an industry where it's about who knows you, not who you know, so to say. And again, the earlier you can recognize that. I mean, I think the other relationships that I fell back on were the recruiting relationships from when I was being recruited. Of course, I didn't go play at their universities, but coaches, we remember a lot and we invest a lot in recruiting. And so when I was first looking for some of my, first jobs, I reached back out to those coaches and just said, hey, I'm done playing. Is there any opportunity? And people are nice. And, you think that competitiveness or threatening environment of sports, will make people act awkward or weird, but really, people want to help people, especially coaches, and especially ones that know you a little bit. So I got to know a lot of coaches through my own recruiting process that I have come back to since being a coach. And so that's been, I think a huge piece of how I've gotten to where I've gotten, but then also just the pleasure of being in coaching is reconnecting a lot of those relationships.
So it sounds like because you were very intentional, I'm sure you're either physically writing things down or mentally taking notes and realizing what you like about different coaching styles, how the players respond to things. Now that you've had 4 years of your own head coaching experience. You get to be the one to design all of this. What do you want your teams to be known for?
I think when you watch UNLV and us play, I'd like people to be impressed with our offense, with our offense schematically, with our pace of play, and with our joy of playing with each other. I am definitely more of the offensive minded coach. I want to score the basketball. I want games in the 80s, 90s, 100. And so. We also do play some defense, but I think just it's fun to play. It's fun to watch when there's a lot of points scored and when people are having a great time out there. So for us, I want people to be able to see our culture and our chemistry of our team, and the ball going in the basket.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun to watch. So speaking of offense, do you have any philosophies or principles that you feel have helped your team become such an efficient offensive team?
Well, I'm maybe a little bit more of the old school mindset, I guess, in some ways, but we play through the paint. It's been, a huge piece for our success so far of having great post play, but also attacking the basket and getting to the free throw line. So, we've actually done a tremendous job of shooting the three and shooting it really efficiently. But we don't run a ton of sets for threes. We get our open looks by driving it to the paint, by pounding it inside to our posts and giving them touches, making them double there, so then we space the floor with shooters around them. So we like to play a little bit of like pick your poison. And, for us, it starts with the paint and rebounding on both ends.
Yeah, I wanted to go a little deeper on a couple of offensive aspects, I guess, for lack of a better term. Transition wise, I noticed I was going to say the same thing. You attack the basket. A lot of teams will kind of fan out to the 3-point line now. You do a little bit of that, but it's a lot of the ball handler is attacking, always going to the rim. Is that something that you talk about a lot in practice or in game film?
Absolutely. I think our transition attack starts with two things. We always have someone run into the rim. And for us, we have really mobile post players. So it's pressure on the rim always. And then our second biggest thing is having our ball handlers, our point guards in attack mode first. Yes, we pass it up, and we pass ahead to attack. But, our point guards, our scorers, they're attacking the basket. And when you've got, a post at the rim and the ball coming up the floor quickly, again, we space the floor with great shooters, but it's with a drive to the rim first, whether that's on a pass inside or off the dribble. So that's kind of the key to our transition break. We drill it every day, multiple times and go over it and over it. Because when we're in transition, then that's when our offense is really clicking and we're really efficient there.
I'd like to also talk about your zone offense. You didn't play a lot of zone defenses throughout last season, but you were number 2, according to Synergy Sports, number 2 in points per possession in zone offense. When I watched those possessions, a lot of ball movement, quick decisions, players moving, and always attacking. There's not much of settling and kind of playing around the perimeter. How much of that do you attribute to practice time, game film, and just constantly communicating with your players on what you want?
Yeah, well, the zone defense is interesting. Like you said, we didn't face a ton of it, but I think where our zone offense has had so much success is that it's very similar to, our regular offense of going inside. I think when people play a zone, they play a zone because they just want you to shoot it from the perimeter and settle for outside shots and, just pass it around the outside. We have some specific actions and alignments, and even a couple of, sets where it's either a guard attacking the basket or having an emphasis to get it to the short corner, get it to the posts inside. So, and our team has been doing a great job of executing that. So, we, again, like you said, we didn't face a ton of zone, but maybe it's because when we, play against the zone, we still keep pressure on the rim, and go inside first. And then those are even easier perimeter shots once you kind of get them all to converge.
That's probably why you don't get many zones against you, because you do punish it. And I notice even when the ball goes to the high post, I saw a bunch of times Alyssa Brown, it just straight away drive to the basket as quick as possible. There's no kind of waiting around, holding the ball. Everything is just quick decisions and making the defense go backwards a lot.
Yeah, it's quick decision making, it's spacing and alignment. The thing about zone offense is it's more of alignments and making plays than running plays. And so I know we'll talk about practice drills here, but we've got a couple that work for us regardless of the defense, and it practices just that of kind of quick decision making, but being aggressive.
Sure, let's get into practice drills. What are one or two that helped you with offensive efficiency?
I think our team's favorite drill, or at least I know most of them, and I would argue one of my favorite drills for them too, is we play a 4-on-3 scramble. So it's an offensive advantage, half court, just drill. And it's just like it sounds. There's 10 seconds on the shot clock. The ball gets thrown out to the offense and you're at an advantage. You're on a 4-on-3. And so you've got to make a quick decision. You've got to make a quick play. You got to try to find where the advantage is and be ready to shoot. And so, we do that drill a lot because it's just about basketball. It's about playing basketball. It's about angles. It's about quick decision making. And, for us as coaches, those are practice skills, and you can't get enough reps of that, of playing 5-on-5, I think, or just only certain people can get a lot of reps of that. So we split our team up into two, and it's, 6 for 7 or 7 for 7, however many are available that day. And it's a very fast pace. It's like a 4-minute drill, 2 minutes each team. Twos are twos, threes are threes, and it's purely an offensive drill, because the defense is at a disadvantage. But it helps with offensive rebounding, of attacking the glass. It helps with being shot ready and getting your shot off quick. And then just, with players making quick decisions and finding open players and getting great connection to, with each other. So that's by far, I think, our team's favorite and probably my favorite offensive drill. And obviously it kind of just how we just talked about the zone, it works in the same way, regardless of the defense. You're trying to always find an advantage, whether that's in a closeout situation, even when you're playing 5-on-5, you always want to try to find where the advantage is. And so, for us, that drill does it really well, very efficiently, very quickly, and gets a lot of reps for everyone.
Are there any time constraints or dribble constraints, or is it just kind of play? And
it's like a 10-second shot clock, so that's the only constraint. So there's no dribble limit, but we like to penalize for turnovers, because really you shouldn't be turning it over. So it's like maybe -2 for a turnover, but 2s and 3s, and then obviously on a shot and offensive rebound, the shot clock resets. But for the most part, like, you're getting a shot up within 3 or 4 seconds. I've even, I've played around with the shot clock and done a 6-second shot clock too, to where you've got to make really quick decisions and quick plays to get a shot up.
So you mentioned turnovers. That's a good segue, because I wanted to talk to you about the fact that you're number 2 in the country in fewest turnovers per game, 10.4. What do you attribute that to? Is it, again, practice, talking about a lot, game film, having intelligent players? Because that obviously helps us.
Good players is definitely a huge piece of that. Our starting point guard, Kiera Jackson, as a junior, she led the country in assist turnover ratio. And when the ball is in her hands, about 90% of the time, when she does that, then our team collectively has a pretty low, turnover rate. So, it's for sure, obviously, good players making good decisions. But I think just also being sure, we pride ourselves on being a great passing team. And, I joke that I've got the Lindy La Rocque Passing Academy, kind of like the Manning boys, because passing, I think, is just such a lost art. And, players these days, they come, freshmen, they don't even know what the seams of a basketball are, let alone pass on the seams, catch on the seams, shoot on the seams. And so everything from like just the little details of outside hand passing to finding the seams and throwing every, pass on the seams. I think there's some of that, tactical piece to, limiting turnovers of just being a good passing team and passing and catching. And then the decision making piece. So, whether it's like our 4-on-3 scramble or, kind of my other favorite drill is what we call transition build up, where it goes from 2-on-1 to 3-on-2 to 4-on-3 to 5-on-4 to 5-on-5. And so we try to always do a lot of, offensive advantage situations, to try to just help read scrambling defenses and where help might be coming from. So, I don't know if I have the one key piece of why we were such a low turnover team, but I would attribute it obviously to great players, our constant daily emphasis on passing and catching, and then just, the ability to just kind of make reads and quick decisions.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of it was drilled into them as kind of gameplay type drills, small sided games kind of stuff, and like you said, confidence and just knowing you have that advantage and attack it.
Yeah.
In terms of practices, how do you balance your practices between offense, defense, transition? It sounds like all three of them may be mixed together quite a bit, and then the skill development side of things.
Yeah, we never practiced for more than 2 hours. I know there's different philosophies of length of practice, I think first and foremost. But how we kind of plan and schedule our practices. So if it's 2 hours, the first 30 minutes are really our fundamentals, where we do ball handling, passing, finishing, layups, individually and collectively every single day. And that's not something that I skip or cross out. It's a little bit of our like warm up to the warm up, because, they know once we kind of get through what is almost like that pre-practice, then we are going. So, that is prioritized. We always have shooting. Kind of my personal philosophy is just before every water break, we're doing a shooting drill. Because if you always just save shooting to the end, like that's what gets cut, and if you want to make shots, then you've got to get shots in, more than what your players are just doing on their own outside of practice. So, we start with our kind of fundamentals. We always do shooting. And then it's, the day-to-day needs with our team. I meet with our staff every day to try to get our plan together, but more so like on a Monday or at the beginning of the week, we plan out the week of like, okay, we need to get these things done offensively, defensively. So then we can kind of almost put together the practice plans for every day at the beginning of the week. It's like we've got a list of offensive things, we've got a list of defensive things, and we want to do 2 or 3 of those, each day. So I'm maybe that's like the type A in me. But I'm very strategic and maybe a little analytical with the practice planning, and making sure we kind of get things done. And when it's on the practice plan, I do it. So, and our staff is great at teaching different things, but if when it comes to percentages, it just really just depends on what's most needed. But the things we never sacrifice are our fundamental kind of warm-ups, our ball handling, passing, shooting, and then especially our like game shooting, our game shots. And some of those are team drills, some of those are, using 4 baskets and having 2 or 3 at a basket. We try to keep it up, and we've got a whole kind of Rolodex of drills to fit those needs. And so we try to mix them up and not do the same exact things every day. But outside of that, it's, some offense and some defense there too. Obviously, like most people, we utilize, practice guys, a practice team that kind of helps us focus on one or the other, which I think is important. And then, we roll the ball out there and execute.
I like the notion of the kind of warm up before the warm up. it can kind of free their mind of any issues that they've had that day or that week and get straight into basketball mode. I'm sure it improves the level of your practices as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, these young people, they're either coming from class or, going to class afterwards, and they've got a lot of stressors, like you said, things on their mind. So, they kind of know in the first, two or three drills, like we obviously expect high execution and championship effort, but it's also kind of their little in between time to get their mind right and allow themselves to be here for 2 hours, give great effort, have a great attitude, and and kind of get in that mode. So that's, again, people have different ways, but that allows me, and so it's like, then if they're not ready to go after then I can get mad at them.
Yeah. I'd like to talk about player expectations with you and how you communicate your roles and goals for the players. You had four seniors last year graduate, three of whom were starters, one two-time Mountain West Player of the Year, Desiree Young. Big shoes to fill for the players that have left. So obviously there's going to be some returning players who will have higher expectations from yourself, from themselves, from the other coaching staff. How do you communicate with them from the end of the season to the off season to now as you're entering close to your first preseason game? How much communication is back and forth between the players that are coming back?
Yeah, we have a lot of opportunity, especially this year, more than we ever have. It would be unfair to try to squeeze someone's feet into Desi's shoes because it doesn't just work like that. She provided us so many things from on-court points, rebounds to passion plays and just energy and effort and leadership. So kind of I try to set even personal goals for myself, at the beginning of the year. And so far I'm, doing well at them, but one of my personal ones to meet with our players more often so that when we do meet, they're not long. And so I'm trying to have just monthly, meetings, 20 minutes with each player just to have great conversation and actually talk basketball. I meet with them and we do different things outside of basketball just to make sure, they're doing all that they need and feeling supported. But these meetings are intentional about basketball of, like you said, whether it's defining kind of opportunity, giving feedback, not just during practice, but outside of practice, because we have a lot of opportunity and we need people to step into those roles, and fill kind of the gaps that we have. So, my assistant coaches do a phenomenal job of having great relationships with all of our players and giving them the daily constant feedback of film and all of those things. But, I know, and most everyone knows, like, who they want to hear from is me, and there's 15 of them and there's one of me. So I'm trying to be extremely intentional, especially this year, knowing the opportunity that's available to carve out time with each one of them. And sometimes that's just building their confidence and, infusing my confidence into them, and so, and having conversations. So that's kind of one of my personal goals and things that I'm doing this year is to meet more often. So, there's not fires or different things, or you can catch them early. But, I think it's just, having kind of that open, transparent communication and, just making the time for it and not kind of letting days or weeks pass of assuming they know what I'm thinking or me assuming I know what they're thinking, and to actually have those conversations. And so it's time consuming, and I think that's, what can be hard and, can sometimes you can get less prioritized, but I found that, it is only beneficial. It only helps the individuals, be even better. And it only helps our team and the culture and the expectation piece of, like, it's crystal clear that you know what I'm looking for and that you're either doing it or you're falling short, and we're giving you that feedback so that you can, constantly be getting better.
Yeah, you're building a lot of trust with them as well. which goes a long way when you're asking them to push a little harder in practice or push a little harder in the fourth quarter. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. That trust piece is, bigger than anything. And so we prepare very well for our opponents and for games. And so, I trust them, they trust me. And like you said, that comes from a lot of work, leading up until then, not just in the moment of that game.
Yeah. So we talked about communication. Is there a characteristic that you feel every good or great coach has to have?
Ooh, I think about this a lot. My education doesn't always fit the exact role that I'm in now. I got a Bachelor of Science in Science, Technology, and Society, so it was like nothing. If I could go back over and do it again, I'd probably major in psychology, just to uh, have an even deeper understanding of people, of why people do what they do, how we are wired, how development processes work. I've done my own kind of education on that, since then, and that's a little bit of what my master's degree, revolved around. But for coaches, it's, I know everyone relates it to you're the CEO of a business or a president or of a company, and that's so true. And the number one thing is managing people, and you have to be able to identify the right people in hiring and in talent. And then you have to be able to manage those people. Everyone has their own agenda, has their own, needs, their own communication styles. And so to be a head coach, you've got to manage a staff, and staffs are only getting bigger. It's not just managing 3 coaches that you coach with, but full staffs that can have 8 to 10 people in your team, of 13 to 15 people. So on any given day, 30 of my people I've got to manage and manage well, so that then we can be functional and then actually do the basketball part. So, obviously I think head coaching, there is a basketball schematic piece to it and having knowledge of the game and all of that. But I really believe some of the interpersonal characteristics and skills are just as valuable, and if not more valuable, because you can't let your basketball talents ever, be executed to the fullest if you can't manage the people and handle, all of the different needs well, so that people can work seamlessly together and functionally to put out, our best effort on the basketball side.
I love that. Okay, I'm going to get you out of here with one last thing. I call this the fast break. It's a couple of quick questions, just short answer, one word, one phrase, sentence. We have Team A, #1 offense in the country, below average defense. Team B, #1 defense in the country, below average offense. I already know the answer, but who do you want to coach?
Team A, absolutely.
Yeah.
All day.
Yeah. What's one thing that you're trying to get better at coaching?
Ooh, coaching, one thing I'm trying to get there. I mean, there's like a number of things, to be honest. But I think I'm trying to constantly get better at delegating to my staff and letting them develop and letting them show their talents, because our perspectives are so different and I have such a great staff. So trying to maximize all of their skills.
Okay, last one. Let's say I'm coming to Vegas to watch UNLV Lady Rebels game. Can you also give me one restaurant and one site to see that's not typical Vegas?
Not typical Vegas. Okay. Well, you've got to go off the strip. That's the first thing. So, if you are into kind of Chinese food, there's one of the best noodle places in town is the Magic Noodle. It's phenomenal. It's hand cut, carved noodles. It's amazing. If now that we're talking about it, hopefully it shows up on your Instagram algorithm.
Yeah.
And then, one thing that people don't know is great about Las Vegas. Obviously we're known for our heat and being a desert, but We have mountains. We're a valley, so there's mountains everywhere you look, and we have some of the best hikes and hiking trails from the Red Rocks to Mount Charleston. So you've got to be a little bit of an outdoors person, but just driving out to the mountains is really special to Las Vegas. That has nothing to do with the glitz and the glamour and the entertainment on the Strip.
That's fantastic. Thank you very much. I appreciate you taking the time to share your knowledge and help out some youth and high school coaches and experiences that they can gain from this. I appreciate your time, Coach La Rocque. Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to watching UNLV games and cheering you guys on.
All right. Thanks, Dan. Appreciate you.
Yep. Have a good one.
Swish.